5 minutes you can convert it into a sleeping space, spending $60 or less. You know how expensive it is to stay in a hotel now. You're looking at minimum, in most places, $100 or more per night. And instead of spending all this money on lodging as you go, you can sleep right in your car.
Rockhopper here, and I'm here with my buddy Gary, and he's going to show us today how he did a build out on a Suzuki Sidekick and made it into a camper. So Gary, show us how you did this.
This is a 92 Suzuki Sidekick, and what I'm going to show you would apply to anything from, I believe it's about an 89 to a 98. They're all exactly the same. Any other year maker models are going to require different configuration. But if you want to follow me around to the back of the car, I'll show you the main platform and a simple explanation how it was made, and I'll show you how it fits in and show you how it all comes together.
So this is the Suzuki right here, and it's a fairly small car, so I was impressed when he told me that he made it into a camper.
So this is the primary platform. It measures 4 feet wide by 4 feet long, and as you can see, if you look carefully here, it's about a 7/16 inch thickness of wafer board. Some of the camperized versions you'll see will use a thicker, like 3/4 inch plywood, but I opted for this. And what you'll notice is, of course, I did put a carpeting over the top and the bottom. This is just something you could buy at Home Depot back in the carpet section. You'll see how this works in a minute. I'll show you how this works. This has got some openings for some cleats that fit in here for another part of the platform. On the back there's some little, down on the lower part there's some little ears that I fastened to allow the platform to sit level inside the vehicle. And that little 1x3 that's fastened there is simply to add some rigidity, some lateral rigidity to the platform, so that the bed can sit flat even with 2 full-grown people laying on it. Okay? So the next step would be to install the platform. So the first step to do that is these seats lay perfectly flat, which is a nice feature of this particular vehicle for this particular application. They become a large, that's part of why all I need is this thinner piece of material here, is because the bulk of the weight is on the flat part of the back seats as they lay flat. So then to install it in the vehicle, a little bit tricky but not impossible. Then I have to angle it a little bit here, angle it up. And there it is. There's the main platform. And you can see it's quite level. It sits on these little ears, sits on this little fender flare on the back of the vehicle, and it sits nice and level.
So you can see how it just sits right there. You've got actual storage space underneath if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's kind of necessary. So you can store your cooking equipment, your clothing, and some foodstuffs in there rather handily. And so it isn't necessary, if it's a relatively short trip, you don't need any, you don't need a roof rack, you don't need a bumper rack. I have those things, but they're typically not necessary. So the next step, and I've already removed the headrest from the seats just to facilitate the filming of this video, but that would be the next step after this, is to remove the headrests. The seats need to be all the way forward, and then you simply fold the seats down like so. Get the other one.
Underneath the folded down seats is more storage.
Okay, so that takes care of that. I'll also point out that the emergency brake is in the up position. That's an important feature, and I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so this is the second part of the platform. And I know you might remember I pointed out the little openings for these pegs to go in the main platform. So that's how that goes together. Now, I did this because it was simple and because I'm cheap, but if you wanted to go a little fancier, you could just simply put a piano hinge down this full length of this, and it would fasten on both sides. This would simply fold flat on the main platform and then simply fold out once you're there. It'd be much simpler than the way I'm going to do this. But this is not too bad. You'll see in a moment.
Okay, so that just slides on in.
So that's it there.
And now you have your full platform in the back of this.
There's actually a little piece that I need to replace under here. It's about like a 2x2, and that supports this. As you can see, it's missing, but I'll replace that now that I'm become re-aware of the fact that it's missing. But now watch, I could just crawl in there. I'm just under 6 foot tall, and actually I'll put the mattress in there.
So this is a 2-person mattress, and this is large enough for Gary and his camera-shy wife to sleep on in the back. Big enough to sleep 2 people in the Sidekick. Takes up most of the length of the car.
Okay, so I'm just shy of 6 foot tall. I have plenty of room, and then my wife can sleep here. And the thing I wanted to mention too is, while this is a full-size bed, some of you might be sleeping on a queen or something even wider than that, a king. But what we found is that in a vehicle, full-size is actually pretty roomy because there's no edge to the bed. You don't have to worry about falling out of the bed. You can actually lay right up against the side of the vehicle if you want to. And it actually feels plenty roomy for 2 people. And then in the middle of the night, if you need to get up to pee, you can just open this door, swing your legs out, and you're gone. And take care of your business. You can crawl back in. You know, if you build out or buy a teardrop trailer, what does that provide you? It provides you with room for 2 people to sleep, and perhaps a little bit of a cooking space in the back. But in this case, you've got your vehicle, and in 5 minutes you can convert it into a sleeping space. And it limits the amount of stuff you have to have in your life. It limits your fuel consumption, you know, and you can just drive in. This thing will go almost anywhere. It'll even go places where there aren't roads.
Because you have 4-wheel drive.
4-wheel drive.
And you have fairly good clearance, would you say?
Fairly, yeah.
Okay, for
what it is, it's pretty good. It's not a rock crawler, you know, and it doesn't have a lift kit on it or anything. But it'll go a lot of places. It doesn't have lockers either. It's open differentials, but it'll still go a lot of places. So you get into some really remote places where there's nobody around, and you can camp. You can set up very quickly with something like this. And then the other thing I love about this is this thing will average about 25 miles a gallon. Of course, that includes some highway driving to and from your location, but some of that driving will be on dirt roads. Some of it will be in 4-wheel drive. Some will be in four-wheel drive in low range. So even with all of that, it still averages 25 miles a gallon. So it's real limited on fuel consumption. So it's a nice little setup. So if you look on YouTube, if you have a different vehicle, if you have some other type of, typically if it's a wagon, a hatchback, an SUV, or a van, there's all kinds of other videos out there that will, in many cases, address whatever specific vehicle you have, you know. So if you have like a Subaru Forester, a Subaru Outback, or if you have a Ford Expedition, or, you know, whatever it is, a Toyota Land Cruiser, there's build-outs of every imaginable vehicle out there. So you can find those. I would recommend you look at a whole bunch of them. Just look at as many as you can, because some of them are going to really be a fit for you, and some of them won't be. So just take your time, you know, study what's available, and figure out what, if this, you know, appeals to you, if this is something you want to do. Just find something that's a fit for your needs. And literally, most of these people are claiming they're spending $60 or less. I'm sure I spent less than that on this. I think the carpet was like $20. I probably spent less than $20 on the wood. I built this some years ago before wood went completely crazy on price. But even with elevated prices, $50, $60 will get you a platform. You can use whatever kind of mattress system you want. I don't typically use an airbed. I use a foam, like a mattress topper. I prefer that. It takes up more room in the vehicle when you're driving, but I still prefer sleeping on a mattress topper. So that's what I typically do. And we just use this sort of to demonstrate the fact that a full mattress does fit inside of this space. So I don't remember the exact dimensions. I think it's 54 inches by 72 inches. It might be longer than 72, probably more like 77 inches. But in any case, it fits in here with ease and with room to spare, really. And so, and if you know, even in cold weather and bad weather, you're still able to stay warm in here and dry under any circumstance.
And you mentioned having a few candles in here.
I haven't used candles in this vehicle, but I would, because candles can be used safely. I've used them in my van, which I also have a bed in. And the thing about candles that's kind of interesting is we also have a carbon monoxide sensor in the vehicle. And the candles will never create any carbon monoxide. At least none of ours ever have. If you're burning them incorrectly in some way where they're starving for air, they will probably create carbon monoxide. But in our experience, we've never had that happen. And the nice thing about candles, they do not create any added moisture to the space. So like a propane stove or a propane heater or anything that runs on any kind of hydrocarbon includes water, so it adds moisture to the space. But candles are fully dry, and you know, you can just light a couple, 3 wicks that'll burn all night, and you'll be amazed how much added comfort you'll get in a very cold night. I'm talking in the teens, down in the mid-teens or whatever. You can be comfortable in a vehicle like this with just a few candles burning.
Right, just as long as you have a safe way to burn them so they don't tip over.
And you know, you can buy a carbon monoxide sensor affordably. I think they're about $30. The one I have is a cigarette lighter adapted unit that plugs in. It provides for some USB charging, but it also reads carbon monoxide, and it does so because I've actually had it go off on me when I was using a stove inside. And I had a stove running with a pot that was choking the burner a little bit, and so the airflow was limited to the burner, and that thing went off right away. So it demonstrated to me the sensor worked perfectly. But candles have never even generated any amount of carbon monoxide. So that's a nice option to use relative to this particular option. I've had this vehicle since the spring of 2015. And when I bought it, the gentleman that I bought it from had done quite a bit of work to it. As you can see, the engine's in really nice condition. He had bought a remanufactured engine from a machine shop. And so when I bought it, had a fairly recent engine and a recent clutch, new radiator. The dates are on everything. This is 2013 now, so it's been a number of years now, but the radiator was only 2 years old when I bought it. New clutch, an exchange transmission, new shocks, new exhaust, new catalytic converter. So I kind of scored, I'd say, he probably had way more invested in it than I spent on the vehicle. But I would say something like this could be available on the market for anywhere from, they're actually kind of they have a bit of a cult following. I mean, kind of surprising. It doesn't look like much, but people really like these for a number of reasons. But so they're kind of sought after. So if you shop around, and I haven't done so recently, but they can go from anywhere from 1,000 to 7,000 or 8,000 for something like this, depending on the condition it's in and, you know, the market that it's in and so forth. So these are kind of a nice fit for this type of application, basically because you can go almost anywhere in them using very minimal fuel. Something else I'd like to mention about this idea of camperizing your vehicle, it's really nice, is if you're on a road trip, if you're going somewhere, you know how expensive it is to stay in a hotel now. You're looking at minimum, in most places, $100 or more per night to stay in a hotel, and especially if you're traveling and if all you're going to do is sleep for the night. If you have a hatchback car, a station wagon, or anything that you could do this with, even some sedans have trunk access. There's probably a way to do that in some of those, but for 50 or 60 bucks worth of materials, you can build a little bit of a platform there, create a sleeping platform, And if you're driving by yourself, you don't need that full platform. You could make one that's 24 inches wide or even narrower. And then instead of spending all this money on lodging as you go, you can sleep right in your car. There's always places where you can tuck your... a passenger car is so stealthy. You can park it almost anywhere, and nobody will know that somebody's in there spending the night in the car. So you can just park on the side of the street, in a parking lot somewhere, wherever, you know, just there's all kinds of other YouTube videos strictly speaking about where to park and how to park stealthily as you're traveling. So you can look up some of those too, but you can actually use your car as your lodging space. You want to get a room once in a while just to get a shower and clean up a little better, and great. But it's a great way to save a ton of money as you're traveling.
Absolutely, and that's something I definitely know all about. And you can camp on U.S. Forest Service land, BLM land.
State trust land in the state of Arizona.
Yeah, that's true. Also, occasionally people say Walmart parking lots, casinos. Sometimes you can ask permission and stay at casinos overnight, no problem.
Fairgrounds, state fairgrounds.
Certain fairgrounds, indeed. There's the more you look around, the more you realize how many places there are where you can park for free.
Sometimes behind a hotel, they'll have a separate area where they park like larger vehicles, and you can usually tuck in there without anybody really noticing you or being bothered by your presence.
That's true. So there are a lot of options. So everybody just know that. You do have options. Just do your research, do your homework, find out what those options are in your region, and you should be fine. I hope you enjoyed learning from Gary how to do a Suzuki Sidekick build out. Don't forget to give me a like on the video, share, and subscribe. Until next time, this is the Rock Hopper. I'll see ya.